Thank you, and good morning, everyone. All right, so I'll get into it. So I would like to begin today by asking you to imagine something, right? Imagine you have one of the greatest ideas of this era, a breakthrough concept that could change the way an industry operates. It's that kind of idea that could solve problems, create value, and even disrupt the market. You're passionate about this idea. You've got the vision. You've saved up some money, and you're ready to take the first steps to make it a reality. But here's the thing. In the very beginning, you are all you've got. That means everything falls on your shoulders. You're the visionary, you're the planner, you're the salesperson, you're the execution team, and of course, you're the accountant. You're running the whole show. Now, let's say that you're an engineer like me. You might love project management. You enjoy working with people and maybe even thrive in sales. But there's always one area where you're not as strong, like accounting in my case, for instance. You don't love it, and because you don't love it, you're not particularly good at it. But guess what? You have to do it anyway. So as an entrepreneur, you face three major challenges right off the bat. First, you might be excellent at something, like leading people. But at the start, there's no one to lead but yourself. Two, you make mistakes in areas where you like to drive in, but you're not that strong. However, you can't yet afford to hire someone specialized for that. And three, you have to spend time doing things you don't enjoy and you're not good at it just to keep the business running. On top of that, you're constantly pulled into 100 directions at once, trying to be everywhere and do everything. Now, let's say that hard beginning is kind of moving. Let's say that the business starts to take off. You've got traction. Sales are picking up. And slowly but surely, you can afford to hire some help. The question is, where do you start? Naturally, you'll want to bring someone in to handle the tasks that you dislike the most. Things that, like accounting or operations, the areas where you are the weakest in. Then as resources grow, as you can afford more and more and more, you start hiring experts in areas where you're good, but you're not great at. You don't want to keep making mistakes in those areas, and you need to free up yourself to focus on what you love and excel at. Little by little, the business grows. More people join the team, processes start to form, roles are defined, workflows are implemented, and you're finally starting to feel like you built something bigger than yourself. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Here is the next wave of challenges where they begin. You're no longer one person show. It's no longer your brain, your heart, your body driving the business forward. Now there are many brains, many hearts, and many bodies. And with that comes complexity. First, the relationships. When it was just you, your relationships were mostly external. You dealt with customers, suppliers, probably a partner, the government. But as the team grows, you have to manage internal relationships too. Colleagues, then teams, then departments. All of these connections have to function smoothly for the organization to thrive. Then there's alignment. Back when it was just you, the vision, the skills, and the motivations were all contained in one person, you. You knew exactly what needed to happen and why. But now, with more people involved, how do you ensure that everyone is on the same page? How do you synchronize all those brains, all those hearts, all those bodies, that they're working together, not pulling in different directions? So the lesson here is, we are a huge complex set of brain, hearts, and bodies in our organization. So let's think back to the very beginning. When it was just you, three key elements drove the business forward. The brain, which is your vision, the innovative idea you wanted to turn into reality. The heart, your commitment, confidence, and passion for what you were building. The body, your skills and abilities. The actual work you put in to make things happen. So as the organization grows, this element multiply. Every person you bring on board comes with their own brain, their own heart, their own body, their own ideas, their own passions, their own skills. So as a leader, your role changes. It's no longer just about what you do. It's about how you bring all these parts together to function as one cohesive system. Because an organization at its best is like more than just a group of skilled people. Every part plays a role, and every part needs to be synchronized. The brains needed to be aligned around a common vision. The hearts needed to be engaged and motivated. And the bodies need to be skilled and clear on what is expected of them. So how do we ensure that our organizations are aligned, engaged, and effective? How do we synchronize all of these moving parts to drive success? Starts with setting the right goals. Goals that are clear, actionable, and aligned with our vision. Goals that inspire commitment and guide execution. Goals that not only define what we're trying to achieve, but also ensure that we can measure progress along the way. So this brings us to the heart of our discussion, how to set and achieve these goals using a structured framework designed to drive clarity, alignment, and results. So allow me to share. With all of this being said, organizations are not just collections of departments, roles, and tasks. At their core, they're living, breathing systems. They're like a finely tuned machine, as Stefania was mentioning, where every part must be well lubricated and synchronized to operate effectively. And much like a machine, if one part malfunctions, if one piece doesn't contribute as it should, it impacts the performance of the entire system. But here's the key question. What does success look like for an organization? Is it just about survival? Is it just about staying competitive? No, we know it's more than that. So let's begin with the why. The ultimate purpose for our organization isn't just to compete in the market. Competition is important, of course, but success in today's world means being disruptive, changing the game, setting new standards, creating value in ways others can't. Let's think about some of the most successful organizations in the world. They didn't simply match what others were doing. They redefined it. They identified gaps, seized opportunities, and operated a clear sense of purpose. For PayCargo, our reason for existence isn't just to streamline payments in the freight industry. It is to revolutionize how the industry operates, creating solutions that are faster, more efficient, and more reliable than anything else available. It is this sense of purpose, this mission that drives us forward. But here's the thing. A company's vision, no matter how bold, is just words on paper, unless executed. And that execution depends on its people. Which takes me to the who. An organization's success doesn't come from its strategy alone. It comes from its people. The individuals who show up every day, ready to contribute to something bigger than themselves. Without people, even the best vision will fall flat. But here's what we need to remember. For people to contribute meaningfully, they need to feel engaged. They need to understand that they're not just cogs in a machine. They're critical pieces for the puzzle. And more importantly, they need to see how their unique contributions tie directly into the organization's larger purpose. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're part of a crew building a cathedral. So one person might see themselves just as laying bricks. Another might see themselves as constructing walls. But the most engaged and motivated person, they see themselves as building a place of worship and a structure that will stand for centuries and inspire generations. That perspective, that sense of purpose is what drives true engagement. And as leaders, we're all leaders here, it is our job to make sure that every member of our organization sees the bigger picture. When people feel connected to the why of the organization, they're more likely to be engaged, motivated, and invested in its success. Which takes me to the how. This is where the work begins. Defining objectives and executing on them in a way that drives results. So this is something to consider. Execution doesn't mean setting easy goals. As leaders, we need to be ambitious. We need to aim high, but ambition must be balanced with realism. A goal that is too far out of reach can demoralize people, while a goal that is too easy won't inspire effort at all. So think about a mountain climber. If the peak is impossibly high, they may give up even before they start. But if it is an achievable challenge, one that requires focus, preparation, and determination, they'll put everything they have into reaching the summit. That's the balance we need to strike when defining objectives. Ambitious, but attainable. Now, once we have set those ambitious yet reachable goals, the next step is clarity. Think about this in this way. Even the best map is useless if no one knows how to read it. Clarity means ensuring that every contributor knows exactly what is expected of them. It's not enough to say we want to increase efficiency or we want to grow our client base. Those are great aspirations, don't get me wrong, but they're not actionable. Instead, we need to create transparency. We need to define what success looks like in specific terms, so there's no confusion about the role each person has. This isn't about just setting expectations. It's about giving people the tools and direction they need to be successful. So finally, let's talk about control. It's a simple truth. We cannot control what we cannot measure. So if we're going to reach our objectives, saying it now positively, we need a system for monitoring progress and measuring success, which says that this is not just a one-time exercise. It's a continuous process. It's about creating a cadence of accountability where we regularly assess our actions, evaluate our results, and make adjustments as we go. Think of it like flying a plane. You not just set the destination and hope for the best. No. You rely on instruments and metrics to track your altitude, speed, position, making course corrections along the way if there's a storm. The same principle applies for us. Metrics provide the visibility we need to stay on track and ensure we're moving closer to our goals. So just to summarize, an organization like ours, if it is a finely tuned machine, its success will have to depend on three things and three things only. A clear reason for existence, a bold vision that drives disruption, not just competition. 2, engage people who understand their role in contributing to that vision. And 3, execution built on ambitious objectives, clarity, commitment to measurement and accountability. So with this foundation in mind, let's now explore how these principles translate into actionable goals using this structure framework. So the Situational Leadership 2 framework emphasizes one critical truth. Leadership isn't one size fits all. As leaders, our ability to adapt our style to the needs of the individual and the task at hand directly impacts our team's performance. So why does it matter? Because setting the right goal isn't about just what you want to achieve. It's about how you guide your team towards achieving it. So here you can see that there are 6 key conversations that every leader needs to have with their direct reports. So these range from alignment conversations when you set the goals and define expectations to follow-up and coaching conversations that obviously will support that growth and accountability. But here's the key. No conversation can be effective if the goals themselves lack clarity. And that's why we're having this session today. It has to have clarity, it has to have relevance, and it has to have purpose. That's where SMART goals come into play. They provide the foundation for every conversation that you'll have as a leader. And that doesn't stop there. That has to be diagnosing the development levels, which is number 2 on the slide. This highlights the competence and commitment of your direct reports and their direct reports. This is where we as leaders need to understand who's ready to take on challenges and who might need more support. But even here, the quality of the goals we set matters immensely. Goals are misaligned with the team member's development level, too ambitious or too ambiguous, will fail to engage and motivate them. That's why SMART goals will help us strike that balance. Now, if we think about the number 3, matching leadership styles, if you remember that part of the course, this situational leadership model teaches the importance of matching what is the type of attitude that we need to have, what is the type of guidance that we need to give, whether it's going to be directing or coaching or supporting or delegating to the needs of our team members. So here's the connection. No matter how the leadership style, the first step is setting clear, actionable goals. Without that foundation, even the best leadership approach can fall flat. So let's land now on what I consider the critical piece of the puzzle, goal setting. The situational leadership framework recognizes that goal setting is the first and most essential skill for leaders. It's not just about deciding what needs to be done. It's about setting goals in a way that ensures alignment, that ensures engagement, and that ensures accountability. I'm being a little bit repetitive here because this is so important. This is where SMART goals come in. Goals are specific, motivating, attainable, relevant, and trackable. Aren't just a nice to have. They are the difference between goals that inspire action and goals that got forgotten. So without SMART goals, none of these conversations, diagnosis, or leadership styles we have discussed will be impactful enough. It is the foundation of everything else we do as leaders. So allow me to dive deeper on what these SMART goals are so effective and how we can use them to drive success in our teams. So where do you start within these letters or approach? There's no single right way to approach goal setting. Leadership styles vary, and we've learned from situational leadership, they need to adapt to the development level of your team members. So that said, I want to share the approach I have found effective, okay? It's my humble contribution, which starts with the why, the larger purpose, and builds from there. The why really focuses on the relevance. Is the goal important and aligned with organizational goal? So goals need to tie back to the larger mission and the strategy of the organization, as I said earlier. They need to answer the question, why does it matter? Without a clear connection to the big picture, goals lose their purpose. We can become great at something that is not needed. And then the other things trickle down. People lose their motivation. So for example, let's imagine a department tasked with improving the customer onboarding, customer registration. If the goal is simply to reduce onboarding time or simplify it, it may seem just like another task. But if you frame it within the company's broader strategy, like reducing onboarding time to enhance customer satisfaction and drive retention, which directly impacts our market leadership, suddenly makes great, way more weight. So as leaders, it is our responsibility to make this connection clear, both for ourselves and for our teams. Now, let's align on the what, which is the specificity. As specific. What exactly is the goal or task, and what does a good job look like? In other words, what is it, what exactly we're trying to achieve? The specificity is critical here. Vague goals like improve efficiency or increase sales, they don't provide clarity. The teams need to act. Instead, we need to define goals in concrete terms. For example, instead of saying, let's grow our client base, we can say, let's secure contracts within 10 new clients in the logistics sector by the end of Q2. I'm just throwing something hypothetical there. In any case, it is precise, it is measurable, and leaves no room for ambiguity. Now, as leaders, aligning on the what means ensuring that every team member knows exactly what success looks like. So this clarity prevents confusion, reduces inefficiencies, and sets the stage for accountability. Now let's talk about the how and the when, which is attainability. Is the goal realistic and achievable? So that is getting into the execution, the how and when. This is where we assess capacity. Do we have, or based on the resources that we have, skills that we have, and time needed to achieve this goal, can this be attainable? And at the same time, aggressive, ambitious enough. Ambitious but realistic. So attainability doesn't mean playing it safe. It means setting goals that stretch our team without overwhelming them. For example, an unrealistic goal is let's double sales in 1 month. A realistic attainable goal is increase sales by 20% over the next quarter by targeting new markets and leveraging existing client relationships. So the key here is balance. Bottom line. We want to push our teams to grow and achieve more, but also we want to set them up for success. Now, we're going to close now the loop with the why at an individual level, motivating. So motivating is, am I excited and interested in this goal? If we hire the right person that not only is skillful on a specific role, but also loves to do that, should be motivated if we really drive this the right way. It's not enough for a goal to be relevant to the company. It also needs to resonate with the person responsible for achieving it. People need to feel personally connected to their goals. They need to see how their efforts make a difference. So as leaders, we can foster this by communicating the impact of their contributions. Your work on these initiatives will directly improve customer satisfaction, which is key to our growth strategy. We need to recognize the achievements and progress along the way, even though right now we're at the level of setting the new objectives, but we need to already think of that. And of course, we need to ensure that the goals align not just with the company needs, but also with their personal growth and development, because some of these goals may be pushing the envelope or pushing this person to do something that they haven't done in the past. Typically, we hire people that have been successful. So if they were successful in the past, they will be successful in the role that we're hiring them. But sometimes we are going to require them to go above and beyond their experience. So when goals are motivating, people don't just work harder, they work smarter. They bring energy, creativity, passion to their efforts because they know they're contributing to something meaningful. So I'm going to close this, and then we're going to go to questions and comments. I want to address something that I've seen far too often in my experience. Leaders that focus on a specificity, makes sense, right? Let's make it clear as possible. Attainability, yes. It has to be aggressive, but real, attainable. And tracking, okay? Yes, we need to measure so we can control it, so we know that we're really being successful. but sometimes a lot of times, they overlook motivation and relevance. It's an easy trap for leaders to fall into. We get so caught up in defining measurable targets and actionable steps that we forget to ask two fundamental questions. Why does this goal matter? Relevance. And why should the people involved care? Motivation. When we ignore these elements, something critical happens. The goal may still be achieved, but the sense of purpose fades. Teams might hit their numbers, but without understanding the why. Sometimes they don't start, cross-functionally coordinate. Their efforts feel transactional, not transformational. And when that sense of purpose fades, it doesn't just affect morale. It affects alignment in the long run. The bigger picture gets lost. Silos form. And over time, the organization loses its compass. Why motivation and relevance matter? They do matter because they're the fuel that drive employees not just to complete tasks, but to thrive, to innovate, to contribute to the company's success at a deeper level. In my experience, employees who have clarity on the relevance of their goals, who understand how their work connects to the vision and mission of the company, they feel like important contributors to the overall strategy. This connection creates that sense of pride and responsibility. It reinforces their role in driving the company forward. And at the same time, motivation comes from recognizing that employees are not just skilled at what they do. They were hired because they were passionate about it. So when people are motivated by doing what they love and they're good at, it creates a powerful synergy that engages their mind, their heart, and their body. And this combination, guys, this combination of clarity and motivation doesn't just increase the probability of meeting goals. It often leads to exceed them. And beyond that, it fosters a mindset where employees begin to think beyond their individual roles. They start seeing themselves as part of the company as a whole, challenging the status quo, and finding new ways to disrupt the business in their areas. These are the team members who push the vision to new heights, defining limits, expanding what the company originally believed was possible. So as leaders, we need to cultivate this synergy by ensuring that every goal we set is both relevant for the company's mission and personally motivating for the individuals responsible for achieving it. When we do, we not only achieve alignment and engagement, but also unlock the potential for innovation and growth that comes from people who are fully invested in the organization's success. So here's the bottom line. If we fail to make goals relevant and motivating, we may achieve short-term wins, but we'll miss out the long-term impact that comes from an inspired and empowered workforce. This is why all 5 elements of these SMART goals matter. Not just the measurable, actionable parts, but also the human elements that drive engagement and alignment. When we prioritize relevance and motivation alongside the specificity, attainability, and tracking, we set the stage for goals that are not only achieved, but also meaningful and impactful. So, summarizing, start with the why. Establishing relevance. Align on the what to provide clarity and specificity. Access the how and when to ensure goals that are attainable. And close the loop by connecting goals to individual motivation and contributions. As leaders, it's our job to bring these elements together in a way that inspires and drives results. It's not just about managing tasks. It's about creating sense of purpose, direction, and accountability, both for our teams and for ourselves. Open to questions, comments.